What's going on, Canes fans? Welcome back to Six Rings Canes Show here, joined by Mr. DJ Danny Gillette and, of course, Vish Parasurman. Look at that. I'm nailing
Boy,
everything
you must be
today.
feeling, you must be in the flow right now,
I'm
man.
feeling good today, boys. I'm feeling good. What's
I
going
want
on,
whatever
fellas?
Jazz is having. That's what I want right now. Damn.
Oh, man. What's going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
Same old stuff, different day,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, doing well, doing better than our baseball team.
Oh, God. And it's funny because you said that first, right? Like you mentioned it. Like, they just got their asses kicked by Florida Gulf Coast last night.
Yeah,
And we're still by D1baseball.com still has
yeah,
us as the fourth ranked team as far as seeding goes for the regional hosting, which blows my mind because if you
yeah,
ask me, I put us out of the top 10 just based off of our showing the last couple weeks.
yeah, and if you read like the write up on it, if they said if we win the Notre Dame series this weekend at home, we're probably locking up a national seed. Right now, they don't have us as a lock; they have us on the national seed bubble, but
Right.
that would be Notre Dame's ranked high as well, so that'd be another big series win. But we do need to have a national seed because we suck on the road.
I think what helps us is that Virginia Tech is playing so damn good,
Yeah,
right? They're number 3 in the country right now, I think,
yeah,
right? Or
yeah.
one of
They've
the
got them as a lock.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive what they're doing. They're one of the best hitting teams in the country. I know that we kind of digress and started off with baseball, but that goes to show you that, I mean, listen, this is slow times are coming, baby. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on right now that really doesn't get talked about enough. And I think one of the biggest things is definitely what's going on with the ACC, which we kind of spoke a little bit about last week, but also something that was just recently posted on the NCAA website, which was the elimination of the initial counters. Nobody knows what the hell that means. We will explain it to you because once we do, then you guys will realize that the initial counters, I mean, they could have given it a better name, right? I mean, that's just the bottom line. It's ridiculous what this is. But if you guys can, we'll definitely talk a little bit about that. But first, before we get into that, hopefully we'll get Blue on the show as well. He's covering a spring football game, but hopefully he'll get on in a little bit as well. So let's kind of dive into first before we get into the initial counters a little bit more into the ACC format and what's going on with that. And I know Vish, you kind of spoke about it. We all spoke about it a little bit. Do you like what's going to happen now with the ACC?
Yeah, well, first of all, shout out to Julia in the chat. She's very. She's been talking to us.
Okay, Julia.
Yeah. Hello.
Appreciate
Hi.
it. Thanks for the love. Yeah.
Yeah. No, appreciate it. For real. That was kind of came out sarcastically. Didn't intend it that way. So first, shout out to her. So I know this is probably a minority opinion. I like the change just because to me they had to do something with the transfer portal stuff. And this will allow schools to take more players out of the portal because right now there's too many players in the portal and not enough places for them to go. So I think this will help with that. It'll also get rid of the whole ridiculous gray shirting thing where, they're like, oh, we won't count you until like the spring. And it's just, to me, this is cleaner. And I'm hoping that, this will prevent schools from, they might, this is obviously opens up to abuse. Like they take 50 kids and then they know that they're not going to renew like half of them, right? Because they can take as many as they want in one class. But hopefully schools that abuse that, get that reputation and, that'll be a black eye that kids won't want to go. It'll be fairly easy. It should be to negative recruit off of stuff like that. So I think there's probably less of a risk of that. Than it would initially appear. So overall, I think it's positive. I think it gives the schools more flexibility. I think it gives the players more flexibility.
Yeah.
Because you still got to match that 85. So it's not they can just all the players can go to Alabama now or something. There is still going to be that 85 cap. So I think overall it's positive. I don't think artificially capping one class at 25 really did anything.
Are you talking about the initial counters?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I thought we were talking about the ACC.
Oh, I was talking about the initial counters. Sorry,
okay.
You must have been confused that whole time. Like, what the?
What's
this guy talking about?
That's all right. Yeah, you know what? We might as well get into that because
sorry about that.
No. It's all good. It's actually, it's really important because I Yeah, I guess I have a problem with certain. I think it's gonna hurt the high school players more than anything else. I think it's gonna hurt them a lot, and quite frankly, I don't like it. I really don't like it. I just feel like um, I understand the whole not capping them, but like the flexibility of being able to recruit up to 50 kids if you want to, and that's of course including transfer portal kids. I get that, but uh, this is basically turning into it's college football. It's and as I posted in the Twitter earlier, it's unrecognizable to me, like what's going on in college football. And I understand they need to kind of progress and change some things to keep the game exciting, to keep the players really wanting to play and feeling incentivized to play college football, yada yada yada. Because this day and age, kids are a completely different mindset than how they were 20 years ago. The NCAA obviously relinquishing some of its power with the NIL deals and the transfer portal. I like it. I like that because it gives kids the power to really choose what they want to do. I understand all of that. However, this whole initial counters thing to me, um, I don't like it in the sense that they're just giving them free reign to just, I mean, one and out. You can be here a year, and here's where I'm getting at. Okay, let me just kind of get to the point. The point is that some of these kids don't develop in a year. Okay, some of these kids take 2 or 3 years to develop. Okay, and then you see it every year in the draft. Wow, this kid didn't develop until his junior or senior year. Right now, we're talking about if the kid is third or fourth on the depth chart, starting his freshman year, I can cut you the next year. I can let you go and fill that roster spot with someone else. And I understand there's 1,000 kids in the transfer portal, but again, that is a choice that the player is making. So if the player makes that choice to choose to enter the transfer portal for whatever the case is, whether he's not happy, whether he's not getting playing time, whether he wants to go play for a different coach, a different team, the coach got fired, whatever the case is, this is a choice that they're making, right? Like to leave without properly vetting what their opportunities are at the next, at a different school, whether it's Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. And what's happening is that a lot of these kids get the wrong information, don't do their homework, and they end up staying in the transfer portal and never go play at another Division 1 school again. Hence, they get lost in the shuffle anyways. They don't develop how they might possibly develop. So I think now what you're going to see is now you're going to see a lot of these young kids that are scholarship athletes or high school kids that got cut or from as a freshman from the school that they were at. Now they get screwed because now you get all these other kids that made the wrong decision going into a transfer portal. Now they get picked up, and these kids lose out on an opportunity to develop and get better at a place that they could have done initially at somewhere else or whatever the case. I mean, it's too much. I think I don't like it. I think it ruins the high school game. I think it ruins opportunities for a lot of these high school kids to come in and be able to develop on their coach, because God knows the guy over at LSU, Mr. Brian Kelly, he's cold-blooded. The guy will cut his mother if he can find a better person. Okay,
He'll kill an assistant to try and take video practice.
well, he'll do whatever he has to do.
That's something he actually did.
Yes. But you know what I mean? And so now what happens to those kids? Now what happens to the high school kid that came in and is a developmental athlete? Maybe he needs to kind of, sit behind a couple of guys for a few years and then start and then play or get better or get stronger, get bigger. Now you're not giving some of those kids the opportunity because you see perfect example, maybe a guy like Cyrus Moss. Let's just throw, and I understand he's uber talented. He's really talented. And the chances of him this happening to a guy like Cyrus Moss. But the problem is, what happens if Cyrus Moss, for one reason or another, doesn't progress, doesn't get better after year one, right? Or he kind of doesn't gain the weight, still needs another year to kind of develop, and then they cut him, and now he has a hard time finding another school because the thing on him was, oh, he's not getting big enough, or he's not getting strong enough, oh, he's not getting fast enough. And so now he gets stuck in this limbo where he can't find a school because you didn't give him the opportunity to develop for 2 or 3 years. Hence, I understand bringing in 50, 50 new recruits if you can every year, and then but that also means you got to cut another 50 guys. I don't know if I like it that much. I think again, I think it ruins the high school game, and it ruins it more for the high school kids.
So I disagree with that just because I think there'll be diminishing returns on stuff like that. If you get that reputation as a coach that you're going to do that, it's going to make it a lot harder to it's going to make Jersey Kane's right, except what Jazz's point, as I'm disagreeing with what Jazz said, I will agree with this one point. Because you're capped at 25, you're not going to have this huge turnover just because you won't be able to fill it, right? There's only a certain number of turnover you can do in a year now because of that cap. So by opening that up, you're really only limited by the 85. So that's why with Jazz. My point is, if you're trying to do that, you're not going to actually be able to build a program that way because you're going to get that reputation of, we're not developing them. And I'm assuming, like, when you recruit, I mean, you use Cyrus Moss, right? When you recruit him, there's a vision in line for him that this might be a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan for whatever player that might need developmental. I don't think they're recruiting a lot of freshmen thinking this guy's going to come in year one and start, otherwise he's out of here, right? And so I think that will happen some. And like you mentioned Brian Kelly, maybe he'll do that, but I don't think it's going to be a chronic problem where we're really having that much turnover. And I think what this will do, because I think Jazz and I are both kind of the same frame of mind, we're about player empowerment. So he's concerned that the players are going to get screwed over. I think this will empower them, though, on the back end. And I know you talked about the portal and how it's the player choice. Some of it's them being voluntold to get out. So
how big of a percentage do you think it is of players that are getting told to go out to get out?
I think it's a lot more than you would think.
You think?
I think it's a combination of the two things. That's why I said voluntold. Some of it's like you're not going to play here and you know it, so you're going to leave, right? And so it's hard. I think there's very rare occurrences of players at a big program that are starting and playing a lot that enter the portal. It's either small school starters that want to go to a bigger school or big school players that aren't getting the playing time they want. It's very rare that you have like a highlight. This guy is like the guy here and he transfers to another big school. So I think it's more. So are those, if you're fourth on the depth chart, let's say as a receiver, but you can be the man somewhere else and you go to the portal, is that being forced out? Not really, but you're weighing your option and like I could get more playing time somewhere else. And I'm assuming the coaches know you're not going to be the man here, right? So all that comes into it, but I don't know that anyone's going to be able to build a program if they're just like throwing the freshmen out after 1 year or even 2 years, right? Any more than they are now. I think the only thing this does is give schools more flexibility to take kids out of the portal. I don't think we're going to see, signing 35 or 40 recruits out of high school.
I think out of high school, no. Out of high school, no. But you're still going to see guys look because, I mean, essentially, the Nick Sabans of the world was doing it already, right? He just was gray shirting
them,
right? So now what you're going to see is Nick Saban sign, and kids are going to do it. They're going to be like, I'm going to go play for Bama now because now they can sign 40 kids, right? And I'm not saying he's going to sign 40 high school athletes, right? High school players. But now instead of capping it at 25 altogether, including high school and transfer portal, now you may see where they sign 30 players out of high school and another 10 from the transfer portal, or another 12 from the transfer portal. And they got 40 to 45 guys on a team. And what happens to the guys that are there now? Because Nick Saban doesn't care either. He's going to cut all these guys out as well. And I don't think that player development, maybe I'm wrong on this. I just don't know if building a program as far as like for longevity is going to be on top of mind for a lot of these coaches. I think what they're going to worry about the most is winning now at whatever it takes and at all costs, because of the way that college football has been already for so long. I think right now the Lane Kiffins of the world and the Jimbos and Brian Kellys and all these guys are going to be like, I don't care what it takes, development or not. I want the best player here. And if someone else has to pay the price for it, it really doesn't matter. And I think it's just going to continue that cycle with those kind of guys.
So But I think that's going to happen anyway. Like, there's nothing stopping them from forcing these kids out to begin with. I think it's on the rest of the programs too. Like, if let's say you're Mario Cristobal and you're looking at Nick Saban bringing in 40 players and like 5 cornerbacks, you should be able to poach them. Be like, you think you're going to play there? Look at this. Does he give a crap about, like, you gotta, like, so other people need to step up. And actually and also I'm very curious how NIL plays in this, because a lot of these are multi-year deals that they're signing.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, right?
You can't throw the kid out of the school. Yeah. Like, I know the school's not involved in the NIL deal, but you can't throw a kid out of school if he's on a 3-year contract with a local whatever tire distributor or whatever BS they're signing him into. So,
and here's the other thing. Like, what about these kids that totally lost my train of thought. DJ, go ahead.
Well, I think what you're starting to see is a combination of, like you guys just pointed out, the NIL deals, now this, not unlimited roster cap, but this expanded roster. I think, college football more than ever right now is a what have you done for me lately business. And it sucks for a lot of these high school kids and a lot of these young kids, but with the amount of money that is being siphoned through college football right now, you have to win right now, or else you're going to be hearing it from the boosters and the alumni and things like that. So, I mean, truthfully, I think, this type of mentality has been in college football all along, and we're seeing all these problems that, people are complaining about NIL deals. People are complaining about, the expanded rosters. Like, these have always been an issue in some sort of fashion, and now these things are just starting to come to the surface a little bit more. And, this is a classic NCAA move. Either they're too strict or too lenient, and there's no in between. Either way, they're harsh or too aggressive in some form, and they oftentimes mess up. So I'm not surprised by this at all, truthfully.
So you know what? Correct me if I'm wrong here, DJ. You probably read it. Maybe Vish, you probably read it as well. So now they can add an additional 10, right? An additional 10, so they can have the roster up to 95. Is that
yeah? That's what I think. There's a lot of numbers flying around, but from what I gathered, they could add an additional 10.
So here's the big thing. This is what I wanted to say before I lost my train of thought. There was now they got to add 10 more scholarships. Right, so school's not going to have to spend more money on, potentially 10 more scholarships, right? Because they still have walk-ons and all that. But what you're going to see, I think, what you're going to see a lot of now is higher quality walk-ons, right? You're going to see, and Miami is a great example. Miami just signed, I guess you can say, a walk-on a couple days ago or yesterday that was a 5-star long snapper. And I know that sounds funny to some people, but he's a 5-star long snapper who plays defensive end, and I think he played linebacker or something as well. So a good player, solid player with D1 offers. Ends up walking on here. A quarterback, I can't remember his name, signs a walk-on, a preferred walk-on deal here as well. There's another guy who had a D1 offer. So I think we've signed about 3 or 4 of those guys recently here that are walk-ons. So you're going to see that happen, I think, a lot more as well because, at this point, scholarships, money, money's going to play, as usual, money's going to play a big role. And this time, this is the university dishing out the money, not a booster or a collective for NIL deals. So that changes a little bit as well. How do schools manage that, Vish?
I mean, it's the whole thing with the scholarships is they're playing accounting trickery with it. So, technically we spend a lot more because we're a private school and our tuition is higher. It's not actually 85 players is not going to dent your college budget. When you have 10,000 students there, it's that the cost is negligible to the school for this. They inflate it so they can say we're not paying the players because we're spending so much money on them. Like, get the hell out of here. To me, like, that's not the money's going to the coaches, frankly. If you look at how much money they get paid, that and like administrators and schools pocketing a bunch of it, and then but what the school needs to do is not show this massive profit, so they inflate oh, each player, we're spending $500,000 to feed this kid. I'm like, what are you feeding this kid? Gold? What are we talking about? Like, so they inflate how much they're paying per player to clothe and house them and all that. And then for us, it's easier to do that because our tuition's much higher because it's a private school. So a lot of that's just like fake money because you're paying yourself. Like the athletic program is paying the school tuition for this kid. So I don't think that's going to factor in as much. The question is, as these year to year, where I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of like maybe walk-ons increasing as you go this year to year, assuming some schools will sign more than 25 just straight up out of high school, right? And some might go with the bigger number. That's less, kids that that some of those kids would have gone to another school. So now those other schools are looking to fill out their roster, but they might not want to cut into their 85 for maybe, kids that normally wouldn't take this kid. But, the guys we would take went to Alabama too because they're just giving out scholarships like candy because they can, right? Or whatever. So that's where I think you'll see an uptick in not just walk-ons, but I don't know if you use the term that, but the preferred walk-on, it's like walk-on, but, they're not like a traditional walk-on. They're kind of like on the team more so,
Right.
but actually see some of those kids get playing time because if you're a school, you still have to manage that 85 limit. And if this year's class, you need to fill out your roster, and this year's class is now weaker because some of the bigger schools oversigned because they can. Now you got to do that math. Do I want to really give this person a scholarship and have it count against my 85? I need the kid on the roster because, frankly, we didn't sign enough kids. But maybe I want to save that for next year or something. And that's why I think you're going to see a pretty big. I think you'll see walk-ons playing more at some of maybe the second-level schools. If the bigger schools start hogging more of the talent, it's going to have a cascading effect down the pyramid.
And
Well,
I think
Go ahead, DJ. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think you are going to see player development. I just don't think it's going to be necessarily with high school kids. I think it's going to be with the walk-ons. So there is going to be player development. So that piece I think is still going to be there. But I think, these schools are going to have a larger pool of talent to choose from and just focus on developing the walk-on program more so, which of course is not good for high school athletes. But I don't think the concept of development is going to go away completely, especially when you're talking about a walk-on.
Here's what I think that the walk-on program, I guess you can say, is it's going to be interesting to me because, like you mentioned, Vish, a lot of these players are potential D1 athlete, right? They got offered scholarships to play, whether it's a Power 5 or not. Still got an offer to play at a Division 1 school. You decided to walk on instead at the University of Miami, Alabama, wherever it is. Okay. Here's what I think is going to happen. You're going to get some of these guys that the school did sign to a scholarship not pan out, right? And so now you're talking about a guy that's a preferred walk-on that now has developed for free without giving, you know what I mean, without having to spend a scholarship on him. Now you're talking about you're developing a guy that didn't really cut into your scholarship cap or whatever it is that you want to say, and now potentially could maybe get that scholarship the following year if this high school kid or if this transfer portal kid doesn't pan out. You can let that kid go, bring that kid in, and continue doing that with walk-ons that are D1 athletes that you can see it and develop them and not have to spend, quote unquote, that scholarship on them. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does, but I actually wonder that if it goes the other direction, you see less of that because what happens now, well, I guess not now anymore because they got rid of the 25 cap, but what would happen now is, like you said, if a walk-on performs at a high level, junior, senior year, they give them a scholarship.
Right.
Now you're going to do that because you can sign freshmen with it. You can sign as many freshmen as you want. Right now it's like we're below 85. We're not using it this year. We might as well give it to this kid. But now you can kind of do whatever you want. So
I think they're going to find loopholes to where they can maybe not give them a scholarship, like you said, but they're going to be that superstar athlete eventually, right? A walk-on kid just comes in, develops right away. It's a running back or a cornerback or an offensive lineman that had to gain some weight. He's a preferred walk-on, but he had some D1 offers. You come in and you get coached up by a guy like Mirabal and Cristobal. Now you're talking about, a kid that maybe he's got great grades. So now you're talking about you're giving him most of his money in academic scholarship, anyways. And tie in an NIL deal. Now you're talking,
About to say, call Life Wallet.
yeah, call
Get this thing sorted.
Call my guys over at Life Wallet and or wherever else. And now you're talking about a kid that's going to potentially play at a university and not have a scholarship, but be completely taken care of, whether it's through grades, whether it's through the NIL deal. Because I guarantee you, an NIL deal is going to be able to potentially pay for his college tuition, at least a portion of it, whatever the case is. I'm sure they're going to figure those things out. So I think that the walk on, I can't believe we're talking so much about the walk on, but I think it's going to be a big thing moving forward, especially now with the initial counters being eliminated. I thought one of you guys was going to say something there. My bad.
I totally agree. I mean, I think the walk-on, the walk-on program for many programs has always been a piece, but I think you're really going to start to see an emphasis on the walk-on program, particularly as it relates to roster shuffling and, trying to, people get this idea that the walk-on program is just like a bunch of like ragtag players sometimes. A lot of people have this misconception that these players are struggling for a spot, but now I think you're going to see some really good athletes, fall to the walk-on program and, kind of make it a focal point for these schools.
Like Ryan Rigoni.
Yeah.
I mean,
I had to throw him in there. Jimmy Murphy, baby. Jimmy Murphy.
I will say, Jazz, you kind of alluded to this. These schools are going to get really creative now because you can mess with all sorts of things. All you do is stay under 85. I think it's important to note that no football team in a single season needs 85 players. So I still think there will be room you'll still see kids develop over multiple years. Like,
very true.
I mean, you're not playing 85 guys in 1 year, so it wouldn't really make sense to force out your freshman class and replace them with players from the portal, because then who's going to play 2 years from now? Yeah. I think you're going to get on that. Once you get on that hamster wheel, you won't get off of it. So I still think we'll see that player development, but we'll have to see how it,
but
how
what
it
is going to
works out
happen
here.
is the kid that comes in that gets stuck as the sixth guy on the depth chart. He's not going to be here the next year.
Because isn't that the case anyway, though? Like, how many of those kids are sticking around?
True.
Well, some of them are, because then they get developed and they move up the depth chart. I'm just saying, like, let's say a kid like who's number 85, number 84, and number 85. I don't think are the. Well, let me put it this way. I honestly think number 84 and number 85 are not going to be the only ones that are going to get screwed. I actually think there's going to be guys that are starters now that are going to end up being screwed by this as well, because you're going to get, well, hey, this guy started for me at left guard, but this left guard that just got in the transfer portal, or this left guard that wants to leave this school, right? Now, but I'm potentially I didn't have enough, spots. Now I've got an extra 10 spots. Now that guy's not going to be my left guard anymore. This guy is. And I think that a lot of times that's going to happen. And yeah, okay, he's going to end up landing at another spot potentially, or another school where he's going to be able to play and be the focal point on that offensive line and yada, yada, yada. Yes, that's going to happen. But man, like, we got to remember, here's I guess where I come in and get up and get bothered by it or worried by it. We got to remember these are 19 and 20-year-old kids. And that's a lot to go through for a 19 or 20-year-old kid, especially, let's just be real, right? Especially a lot of these kids that don't have the guidance at home, okay? Or they had some dumbass handler, and I say it just like that because it is what it is. Some dumbass handler that got him to a school because he got a kickback or he got some money, and now that handler got his money, he's gone. That guy handler doesn't give a crap anymore. Now what happens to that kid? Gets lost in the shuffle now, doesn't have the proper guidance, and it happens a lot. And this is why I'm not. This is why I'm saying it, because it's not like something that doesn't happen. This happens a lot. How many times do we see college athletes transfer from a school or get cut from a team or whatever the case is, and disappear and kind of not have any guidance, and they end up not being in school anymore. They end up doing bad shit, whatever it is. The point is, I think that that is what bothers me the most, is that you're going to see a lot of kids that are still going to be lost because, again, man, they're 19, 20-year-old kids and they got to navigate all of this. So now now not only is it already a business, that's going to be even more of a business. I think it's just going to be crazy.
Yeah, I guess I'm not, everything you said is 100% accurate. It's just, I think it's already there. I don't think that tipping
Yeah.
point's reached a long time ago. Like my biggest pet peeve with this whole system is exploitative, but you know, I would feel a lot better about it if anyone gave a crap about their academics. They are going to college, which most people don't go to college. Like
Right.
this is an opportunity for them to get an education, and it doesn't matter what school you're at, they steer them to classes that are not going to get them good jobs when they graduate, right? They're intentionally, because it's easier, so that way they can focus on whatever sport they're playing. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff disgusting in the system, and I don't view this as like, frankly, making it that much worse. It's already pretty terrible. Like you said, there's already runners that are steering kids to the wrong school and getting a kickback. You know, academic advisors like telling them don't take like an engineering class, take something else because it'll be easier. They schedule practices around like, okay, it won't coincide with the class they want all the players in, which is like basket weaving. Like this is all done. Like UNC is a very strong academic institution. That whole athletic department was taking fake classes and having like tutors do their tests for them.
Yep.
Like to me, that's the area where, regardless of what happens on the field, if we actually like could get, and this will never happen, get, schools to actually do what they're supposed to do, which is educate them and have them, it doesn't matter what you do on the field, you're going to graduate with a degree that'll get you a good job. That would kind of solve a lot of this. And the transfer portal's made this 100 times worse, because what degree are you getting if you're transferring every year?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's crazy. And then like even before the transfer portal blew up, the whole thing of you can play that extra year, do the graduate transfer, so they'd find a fake thing to get a master's in. they'd have to justify it as the initial. I know this, they softened this eventually, but the initial thing was they had to find a major that was not at their existing school to justify the transfer. Like, I have to go to that school to get my master's because they don't offer this. And it's just like, can we like at least like, so some of the stuff they did that was positive that I think they've kind of pulled back on was the whole, because now, as Jazz said, they'll figure out how to game the system. So like the first when they brought in that APR, it was, they were taking scholarships away if like your players weren't graduating stuff, which was a step in the right direction, but it's been game now to the point that
well, here's the thing too with the transfer portal. I think that there is a rule in place that you can only transfer one time without having to sit out, right? So if you enter the transfer portal and then the following year you go to enter the transfer portal again, I think you do have to sit out.
How many schools our starting point guard this year, how many schools was he at? Did he sit out every time?
That's a good question. I'm not sure how.
I think
he might have been 34 years old. Who the hell knows? So it was Kansas, Seton Hall, DePaul, right?
Was he
or was it Seton Hall? I know he was at DePaul and at Kansas. I'm not sure if he was at Seton Hall or not, but I know he was at DePaul in Kansas, and then he ended up with us. So, who the hell knows, man? But that's why it's interesting. I'd like to know if that's. I thought I heard that rule. I'm not sure.
He was at Charlie Moore is obviously we're talking about. He was at Cal.
Cal, that's right.
Then Kansas, then DePaul, and then Miami.
Then Miami, okay.
And I think he sat out. Looks like he sat out a year between Cal and Kansas. That might have been before the portal was there.
Yeah,
because that was 2016-17, and then he did not sit out a year between Kansas and DePaul, and he did not sit out a year to come here. So
interesting. Yeah, but I think that rule is put in place now for the upcoming year.
I mean, they should never have to sit out a year unless you're going to make the coaches sit out a year when they just leave.
That's another story. Anyways, let's talk about our sponsor really quick before we talk a little Miami recruiting, and we'll cut it off there. Let's talk a little bit about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the official daily fantasy app of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Make sure you're using the code 5, FIVE. when you sign up, they will match your initial deposit up to $100. So make sure you use the code 5FIVE, and they'll match up to $100. Use it. I'm sorry, you don't even have to spend it or use it all at once. You can play the NHL playoffs now that are going on, the NBA playoffs that are going on. You've got so many different options. Obviously, the NFL when it starts back up again, and so on. So you'll have some really cool options where you can kind of mix and match your players. You don't have to. You can choose different players on different teams and different sports. It all depends on how much you want to win. Make sure you again sign up with the code 5. You pick 2 to 5 players. Okay, so up to 2 to 5 players, depending on how much you want to win. Then you pick the over unders on individual categories for each individual player. And again, if you choose 2 players, you win a little bit less. If you choose 5 players, you have the opportunity to win a little bit more. Go to prizepicks.com, sign up with the code FIVE. That's 5. The word 5, FIVE, when you sign up, and they will match your initial deposit up to $100. Prizepicks.com is, again, what is it? Prizepicks.com. Make sure you sign up and let them know 5 Reasons sent you. And that's it for Prize Picks.
It's scrolling across the bottom too, in case if anyone wants to.
I felt like I said Prize Picks like 38 times there, but
that is a live read. And then actually, Gary had a couple of points. We'll just bring them up here. This is true. Miami does. If you played here and you leave, you can come back and finish your degree and for free, which most schools do not do.
That's true.
Yes, and so that's a benefit. And then, I experienced this at Miami as well.
Put up the next one because I want to tell Gary that, you see that? Well, if you would have been here at the beginning of the show, you could have heard that we did talk about the ACC stuff a little bit. And yes, in last week's show, we talked about it also. All right, Gary, I don't want to hear you.
And you missed the part where Jazz asked me about, and I thought he asked about the initial counters rule and derail the whole conversation. So I'll take the L on that one because we were going to spend like 10 minutes on that. And he's like, "Wait, you're talking about the initial counters? All right, let's just talk about that instead." So.
But just for you, Gary. But just for you, the ACC, a new scheduling is. I think we're all for it. We all do like the fact that they're going to do that because it allows us to play some rivals and have some really good teams that we play every year. And mix and match everybody else, and it's exciting, and we get to eat spicy chicken nuggets, although they're not from Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, I guess, Gary, since you're active in the chat, who are the 3, I guess, teams you want to play? I'm assuming one's FSU. What are the other 2?
There you go. Give us your 3 rivals that you want us to play every year.
He's going to say Nebraska just for me at some point, and that's okay.
I mean, every time we play Nebraska, we get a big trophy at the end of it. That's happened multiple times. So
that is true. That is true.
Anyway, I think we talked about this a little bit at the end of the show last week. I think we're all definitely in favor of, getting to play all of the teams in a 4-year period, which is a big change because we basically never play some of them. So.
Right, exactly. And by the way, we won't talk a lot about recruiting. I don't think we're going to name too many specific players. Who I want. There, he put it. Who do I want? FSU, VT, and Clemson. Who will get? FSU, VT, and BC. Listen, a lot of people want Boston College, believe it or not. I think Danny, someone on the show last week.
I did. I think Danny is avoiding the local rivalry. I picked BC.
No, BC, Miami would absolutely mop the floor. Hey, if you guys came up, I could show you around the city, but that's the only good thing about the rivalry in my view. If Miami wanted an easy win, I'd say go schedule BC. So maybe at the beginning of the season type deal. You know how the big time schools schedule like Howard and like Holy Cross. That would be the equivalent of BC to Miami.
I don't know, man.
It's a conference game, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, man.
Did they beat us last time we played them? Right? That was Rick's last year.
I'm gonna look that up.
We lost last time we played them. Yeah, that was Rick's last year.
Yeah, they've got a pretty good quarterback over there.
Yeah, they're a solid program. They're not that bad. We haven't talked about.
They're very middle of the road.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
Miami has been middle of the road too. So there you go.
Well, now with Mario here, it's going to change.
Yeah, well, I hope so.
Yeah, hopefully.
I hope so. But anyways, just a real quick touch on recruiting. Look, here's what I really wanted to talk about. Not necessarily certain players, but a lot of people, I think, are a little bit antsy because that's how Miami fans are. at the fact that we don't have a ton of recruits committed for the 2023 class yet. And to be quite honest with you, first of all, I'm not worried. That's number one. Number two, I mean, why would you be worried when it took? I mean, everybody was so worried about Mario choosing, his assistant coaches and taking
Drink, by the way, if
forever.
you're playing the Jazz mixed up Mario and Manny drinking game, go ahead and
Oh
take a swig there.
if anyways, if you're, you saw how long he took to get his guys. Give it a break, man. Relax. Let them do their thing. The guys that are here that are committed, and Max said this on his show last night also, Max and A Black and them. The guys that are committed are the guys that we know 100% want to be here and are Miami Hurricanes already. The Antonio Trips, who we had on the show when he committed, if you all remember that. Frankie Tinilau, another kid. That we had on the show, those kids are Miami Hurricanes. They want to be here. They want, and what makes it even better, the Washington Twins, Robbie and Bobby. And listen, those guys, what they're doing, this is the biggest thing that they're doing. Can you guys name what it is that they're doing to help Mario? What are they doing?
Recruiting.
They're recruiting. They're recruiting. And so those are the type of kids, right? The DJ Dallases of the world, those kind of guys. Those guys are here, and they're recruiting, and you see it on. You see Tripp on Twitter all the time, just recruiting all the players he possibly can. It's hilarious. It's awesome. I love it. Those guys are here. They're recruiting players, and Mario is going to get the guys that he. I don't want to say the guys that he wants because look, at times you're not going to get everybody. Okay, number one. Number two, the NIL is going to play a big part in a lot of the guys that you get, a lot of guys that you don't get. It is what it is. But is Mario going to recruit and out hustle everybody on the trail? Absolutely. And he's going to get some big time names. And there's some big time names out there that are really looking strongly at Miami, right? One being Jaylen Brown, the wide receiver. He's a 5-star guy. I mean, ultimately he could be the best wide receiver in the country. They're looking to flip another guy from another ACC school. That's a wide receiver as well, Nathaniel Joseph. You've got some quarterbacks that they're looking into. Obviously, Jalen Rashada and Emory Williams is another kid. Another guy that Danny mentioned earlier to us before the show was Avery Johnson, is a big-time quarterback. Actually, DJ, I know you got some information on. Yeah, what's going on with Avery Johnson?
I read that he was visiting today. And I know you guys may laugh at me, but he was also looking at Nebraska at some point in time. So I had done my research on him a little bit beforehand.
We don't want that guy. Get that guy out of here.
He's a little bit of a pocket passer. He's a very tall quarterback. He comes from the Missouri area, and he would kind of fit. It seems like Miami wants to get an impact quarterback every couple of classes, and he would definitely fit the bill. He's a very good pocket passer. Gets the ball out quick, and goes through his progressions really well. So I'm interested to see if we hear anything about tonight's visit. I'm not sure if it's actually a visit or if they were just evaluating him. Let me see if I can get more information on that. But Miami is definitely doing their homework at quarterback.
Well, there's a lot of spring games going on.
Yeah.
So, he may just be evaluated. That could just be it. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how the quarterback position develops, because right now, I know that right now they're probably looking the strongest at the kid Emory Williams. If you guys get a chance to look at his tape, he is every bit as good as they think he is. He's not a very highly rated guy, although he wasn't even rated for quite some time, and all of a sudden now he jumped into the rankings, and now he's a three-star quarterback all of a sudden. So, the one thing that Miami does have that some of these other Power 5 teams don't is their recruiting staff is relentless scouts and evaluators. And the reason I say that, and the reason why they are, some of them come from from the group of 5, right? So they're G5 coaches. So a perfect example is a guy like Frank Ponce. Okay, and this is obviously something that's been spoken about a little bit on some of the other shows some of the other shows like Flo's show and Max's show and Rasta and all these guys. Frank Ponce is an elite talent evaluator. Okay. Why? Because he has to get the best out of his athletes, right? He has to get the best out of his players. So he's going to go out there, he's going to scout until he's blue in the face to make sure he gets the guy that fits his scheme, fits his systems the best. So now he's going out there with Gaddis. He's going out there with his wide receivers, with wide receivers coach is Gaddis, with his running backs coach was Kevin Smith and all these other guys, and they are evaluating these guys. And I'm sorry, man, if Frank Ponce and Coach Gaddis and all these other guys say this is the kid I want at quarterback, nobody knows about him yet. But look at a kid like Landon Ibieta. What happened with him, right? The minute that Miami started recruiting him, then Auburn and Alabama came, and LSU came, and everybody else came with the offers. A 3-star wide receiver. Same thing with Emory. You're going to see a lot of colleges now start coming after him because Miami's on him hot, right? And these are not just rinky-dink evaluators and scouts and recruiters. This is the top of the line guys here at the University of Miami that are recruiting this kid. He's got every bit as good a talent as Jalen Rashada does. He may be a little bit more polished as a passer right now. Rashada is very talented. He's got a great arm. He's very athletic, but Emory Williams has the goods. So I'd keep an eye out for him. He could be a guy that's going to potentially, be a Hurricane sooner than later. But the truth is, right now, there isn't a lot of guys committed yet. Give it some time. Relax. I mean, National Signing Day is not until what day? February of 2023?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
and
early signing day is
signing day,
December.
December.
Yeah.
And that was a point, Jazz, earlier when you were saying like people are concerned about the class not being that big and everyone that's kind of in right now is fully committed. Would it make you feel better if like a handful of borderline kids fake committed now? Like who cares? Like we're gonna play a lot of football between then and now. And we talked about this on a show probably several months ago, I think with that when John from Cafecito and Canes was on. But how we play will dictate our ability to recruit as well. If we have a good season,
absolutely,
it's going to be a lot easier to recruit. If we stink on the field, like it's going to be hard to recruit. I mean, that's the bottom line. Like, so there's a lot. I think often like recruiting is almost treated as like an byproduct, but how you play in the field absolutely feeds into recruiting. And we have a lot of football we're going to play between now and early signing day, national signing day, and that's where you do most of your recruiting, frankly.
Absolutely.
You show up there, you play well, and people want to be part of that. And we have the opportunity to really show our program as something that people want to be part of. Then it's much easier to seal the deal then. Where if you come out there and you lose to FIU and then you're trying to recruit, that's a tougher sale. So I think for the ones that are committed now, they're coming regardless, right? They're not going anywhere. The other ones that, they're taking their time, that's fine.
And not only that, well, now classes can be a little bit bigger, but classes aren't going to be that huge, that big until after signing day. Why? Because of transfer portal, right? So you're going to see a class of 20 kids with 15 spots still open for a lot of these schools now. Things are going to change now with the initial counters with being eliminated. Now with the NI deals becoming just absolutely ridiculous, I'm sure. Those things are going to happen. Two last little nuggets before we go. Jordan Addison looks like he's down to USC and Texas. I think Texas is leading that one. Miami wasn't ever, I don't think he was ever truly interested in Miami.
I don't think we really even pushed for it either.
Yeah,
I
think
for
everybody that's kind of wondering what happened, nothing really happened. We just didn't push. He wanted some insane amount of money, something ridiculous anyway. So
he also, I don't know that he wants to, go. Obviously Ladson transferred in conference, but like we play Pitt every. That's a weird move to.
Right.
I know some kids do it, but it's still a weird move.
Well,
like
it's not Addison are different. Yeah.
Right. No, and Addison's a big time player, no doubt. But it is weird. Like we don't play Clemson annually. Like it is a weird move to go and be like, just play like to pull an Alex Terrell. That stuff is weird.
Alex Terrell. I don't know why you mentioned that name. Ugh. Anyways,
he did stink this weekend. We lost the series, but he didn't do squat, which I appreciated.
Typical, hitting below the Mendoza line. But anyways,
no, but it is weird unless he's got like something against his teammates, which usually they don't. He's just
Right.
looking to, frankly, his quarterback's gone. Does he want to really stay in Pitt? No. So,
Yeah.
but to transfer to another ACC coastal team, that would
Yeah,
be weird.
that would
And which
be
is
weird.
why he's looking, Texas, USC, they're big programs. Out of conference, he's probably not going to play his, frankly, friends that he's been, working with for several
Right.
years. So that's probably a lot more appealing. Most players don't want to do that. They don't want to go to a team they're going to play and then have to play against all their buddies. Right?
True.
They just kind of want to move on. So,
True. What's up, Tap? What's going on, Fern? And then lastly, the Jalen. I know the Jalen Robinson situation was very tricky for a lot of people. I think that a lot of people thought, he was locked into Miami, and then last minute, just literally last minute, and this is going to happen a lot also. So we need to be prepared for this on both sides, right? Last minute, Lane Kiffin came strong and offered something that Miami wasn't willing to offer, which I respect. At the end of the day, it's about that. He wanted to know that he was going to start for sure. He was going to be a starter, and I think Mario did the right thing. And you're never going to hear Mario say that. He said, "Yeah, sure. I mean, you could be if you do all the things that you have to do. If you do them right, then chances are you could. But am I going to guarantee you a starting spot without seeing you work here? No, it's not going to happen. Other players, other coaches are willing to do that." And I think that that's what the ultimate deciding factor was. It wasn't NIL money because it was all more or less the same. At the end of the day, it was about knowing for sure, hey, I know for sure I'm going to be a starter here. I'm going to go there. That's it. So that's what happened there. It's going to happen a lot. So
yeah, and you know what? That's fine. On both fronts, like I wouldn't want our coach promising playing time to anyone. You earn playing time,
right.
And you know what? If that's a deciding factor for a player, probably not someone that we want to build our program around. Just being blunt about it. Because I want a player that's like, I don't care if you tell me I'm going to start. I am going to start because I'm going to beat everyone out. That's the guy you want, not you're starting me even if I'm worse than the backup. Like,
yeah.
do you want that guy?
Well, no, you know what? They're going to promise them something and lie to them. It's
yeah, and then you definitely don't. And that kind of gels with our question, our discussion earlier on whether they can abuse like not having an annual limit now and bring in a bunch of kids, then dump them all after a year.
Right.
Lie to a few kids like that and watch your reputation go down the toilet.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us. I know this week is kind of tough. Playoffs are going on, but make sure you.
The Mavericks can't make a shot.
Boo.
Still early.
Follow us on Twitter at 6ringscanes. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's a 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. Smash the like button. And make sure you keep it locked here every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. for the 6 Rings Canes show. Next up is Hitting the Apex, our Formula One show coming at you now. Big show tonight as we preview the Spanish Grand Prix. Excuse me. DJ Vish, thank you guys for coming on, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday.
See you next week.